In this update, let's take a look at the latest satellite view for your Thursday, November the 9th. We've got this steady stream of moisture coming in off the southwest flow. We also have a frontal boundary that's draped across portions of Texas through Arkansas. And along that frontal boundary, as the rain starts to overrun and fall, we'll have dynamic cooling that will help lower the temperatures in the afternoon hours as that steady stream of precipitation will continue to fall within that region. We'll also have this other disturbance up here across New England. Underneath that, that's actually some freezing rain that is falling across portions of Vermont and New Hampshire this morning. And we'll also be watching the Pacific Northwest with our next rainmaker that will be coming ashore. So if we take a look at the latest surface map this morning, we can actually see that stalled frontal boundary really draped across Texas through Arkansas all the way up into portions of Ohio. And there is your winter weather advisory up here in Vermont, New Hampshire, and underneath that with that pink, that's that freezing rain that is falling, causing some treacherous travel in the morning hours. It's kind of a glazing to 1/10 of an inch. But yes, that's a dangerous situation. So definitely be on high alert and be very careful, leaving for work. We did have some snow showers that went through the mountain ranges of Colorado and started to really lower those temperatures, where Denver was like well up into the 70s. They were in the 40s, if not 30s yesterday into the afternoon hours. There's a drastic change with that front continuing to move southbound. And as we head into the weekend, that front will actually continue to move southbound. So we'll be watching two features. This is likely where the front will be at that time frame, producing some very heavy rain across this stalled frontal boundary. But we'll also be watching our next dynamic system that will be really building up there across the Aleutian Islands. That is the system that is going to bring the rains back to the West Coast. You folks in California and Arizona and to Mexico, you're going to get into the action with some heavier rains moving back in the picture. And eventually, as we head into late in the week, into the weekend, we might actually have to be dealing with severe storms by then from that system. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And I would love to reach 225,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily content. So let's take a look at the super soaker that's going to set up later on this afternoon. This is not severe, folks. This is just light to moderate rain, almost a steady rain, almost all day long will be draped across a good part of North Texas into Central Texas, back into East Texas and Oklahoma through Arkansas, heading up into portions of Tennessee, eventually head up into Kentucky. This is going to be kind of an on and off, like really all day type rainmaker. And where we were yesterday, I don't need to tell you that Tuesday, Wednesday, we had numerous record high temperatures. These were some of the records that took place just yesterday, folks. And some of these actually were the highest monthly temperature they've actually seen in the month of November. So yeah, that plenty of heat with the ridge in place across this region. But the good thing is, with that cold front that moved through, it's not Arctic in nature, but it's definitely going to be feeling a lot more like fall out there with temperatures, afternoon temperatures well into the 50s. So we're not talking 90s anymore. We're not talking 70s, even 80s. We're talking 50s across this region. So yes, that will be feeling a lot more like fall. Compliments of that cold front, they'll be continuing to sag southbound. And as it does, it'll drain the rain along with it. So likely by Friday, it's moving out of Oklahoma. It's moving out of North Texas. It will be into Central and East Texas, more likely in South Texas, and be spreading more into Louisiana, into Mississippi, into Alabama, and heading into the Southeast. Back behind it, we do have some drier pockets of air that'll be pulling in on the back side. So once this front clears your region and will be, as the precipitation ends, it'll start clearing out, and you'll start to see, the sun come out by the weekend across this region. But between now and then, for your next 2 days, this is where the precipitation will unfold. So first up north, up into portions of Michigan, up here into Vermont and New Hampshire, heading into Maine, they're dealing with some sporadic snow showers. And also that freezing precipitation this morning, and into the state of Maine, they're actually getting some snow that'll be transferring into snow across that region. But most of the actual snow is going to be up here into Ottawa, across in southern portions of Canada. But this is where the heavier rains will be, and the darker the color indicates the heaviest rain. So it's just a light to moderate rain across Oklahoma and likely portions of North Texas. It could pick up heavier southeast of the Metroplex into East Texas and across into South Texas. And the further south this front gets, it starts to slow down. And when it starts to slow down, that's when the heavier rains start to pick up. So yeah, these places into South Texas, Corpus Christi, down there towards Victoria, even into places into Louisiana eventually with this system. These are areas that are desperately needing rain, and they're going to get it in a big way coming up with this front that's going to be moving across and actually eventually coming back as a warm front. So taking a look at the totals for the next 2 days, here's where we stand along that cold front as it continues to dive southbound. So yes, where it tends to stall and where it tends to kind of slow down, that's where the heaviest precipitation, these darker reds could pick up, more than an inch if you're southeast of the Metroplex into East Texas. And look where the front could potentially stall down there into South Texas. Some of that actually could be some flooding rains in some isolated spots. Definitely could pick up some 6 to 7, 8-inch amounts across this region just in the next 2 days, especially in tomorrow, as that front will continue to kind of meander and slow down across this region. Notice much of Florida continue to remain on the dry side, and much of the up here into the Carolinas. And of course, back behind that front, there's not much precipitation. We've got drier air. Complements of that high pressure will be sagging in. So by the time we head into that Sunday time frame, there's where that front will be out in the Gulf of Mexico. And that's where it's going to start to slow down, if not almost stall. And that tells you where it's, where it's blue here and where it's coming back as a warm front. That kind of indicates that it's a stalling front. And just on the coastal communities, that's where you could just pick up some very heavy rain, especially across south portions of Louisiana into Mississippi, into the Florida Panhandle, draped across the extreme portions of South Texas down into the Rio Grande Valley region. And you can see there's no really reinforcing shots of colder air. So we are going to start to moderate those temperatures because we've got no reinforcing shot of cold air. But we're going to be looking at the next dynamic system, and this is the one that we're going to have to watch closely as we get into next week. So here's the overall setup. So as the front moves in, and as no more cold shots come through, those temperatures are going to be allowed to warm up again. So yeah, you got this paint bomb across a good part of the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest. You can see the blue line. That's your freezing line. There's no Arctic air to speak of, folks. And we'll be watching this dynamic trough that's going to be really building up energy. This is likely going to be the strongest system the West Coast has seen since Hilary, and that was a couple of months ago, folks. So these areas really haven't seen much rain across California. South portions of California are going to start getting some rain back in the picture by the time we head into that 15th time frame. So there's the 14th. This is Tuesday. This is early next week. Remember that front? Yeah, it's going to be backing up as a warm front, and as it does, that's going to provide additional lift across these regions into North and East Texas, Louisiana, back into Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia. Some rains enter back in the picture into portions of Florida. Notice all the brown here. That's just kind of a drier air, but this is your big player right here off the West Coast, we'll have a powerful low pressure center starting to develop offshore. And look at that atmospheric river, folks. Yes, those places in the northern, central, and eventually southern California will be starting to get into the action with the heavier rains moving back into the picture. So if you look at the surface map, by the time we head to that Wednesday time frame, the 15th, there's the low pressure. This is the strongest low pressure you've seen since Hilary, 995, and almost the entire state gets covered with that light to moderate, if not sometimes heavier rains. And then the heavy snows come back for the mountain ranges. So they're going to get blinding snows across this region as the heavier rains will continue to move inland by then across the West Coast. Much of California starts to get into the action. And there's the warm front backing up with that precipitation back in across the southeast. But notice the red line here. That's your freezing line. Retreats all the way back up into Canada, folks. There's no really, colder air to speak like, Arctic type air. Nothing like what we saw like for Halloween, right? Nothing like that's coming up in the near distant future, because we got the paint bomb coming back for next week. And with there's no cold fronts coming in on the backside, the air is going to moderate big time, and it's going to really start to be elevated again across this region. So yeah, another 15 to 20 degrees above average temperatures as the atmosphere starts to heat up again in a big way. Yeah, for the middle of November, folks. Plenty warm, but what we're concerned about with the warmth that's going to be taking over the middle of the country, there's that dynamic system that's coming off the West Coast. And look at the buckle in the jet stream. We haven't seen this in a long time, folks. And the further south that's able to dig, the more energy it's going to be able to pick up, and the more instability it's going to have to work with once it reaches the central part of the U.S. with some storms that could turn on the severe side. So yeah, so heading into, going off the surface map, there's another secondary low pressure center coming in off the West Coast. This is around the 16th time frame. This is next Thursday. Most of California will be inundated with the rain by then, and most of southern California will be inundated with the rain. Now look at the green over Arizona, folks. Yes, this is desperately needed rain across these regions, Nevada, into Utah, into a good part of Arizona. That will eventually spread into New Mexico. We've got more heavy snow coming back for the ski resorts in Colorado and New Mexico, while we'll be waiting for this system to be moving across and spreading those heavier rains again by then through Arizona, through the Four Corners regions. You can see the changeover by then to more snow across those mountain tops. And again, with this kind of warm front that's going to be moving in kind of a back door, we'll have some, lift across that region, but not much, not really that heavy rain, no storms to contend with. But we will be talking about storms by the time we head into that maybe Friday into next weekend time frame. There's the dynamic system. You got the buckle and the jet stream. These are winds aloft. These are the upper air around 17,000 feet. It's going to be screaming. We've got a pretty good dynamic low pressure center draped across Kansas and Oklahoma. So we'll be really having to watch this area for severe storms, because storms will be rotating at the surface. So we could be looking at some more tornadoes by then. Definitely some hail with that colder pocket aloft just to your northwest, and some higher wind gust across this region, with all three modes possibly on the table by the time we head into that 18th time frame across the central and southern plains across this region. There's the low pressure potentially. We got a long time to track this, but as it's moving across, a lot of ensemble guidance, a lot of guidance is definitely hinting at this is the favorite area to watch for that severe storms as we head into next weekend, draped across Kansas, Oklahoma, and parts of Texas. But look at that, folks. That's a pretty significant low pressure center down south of Jamaica. Yeah, we're still in hurricane season, folks. It's the middle of November. It's not like out of the ordinary for have a storm late in the season, but Yeah, it's still a good ways off. Nothing from the National Hurricane Center right now, but this is an area that we might have to watch as we get towards the middle of the month, as most ensembles have this potentially trying to form into a tropical system. Right now, the ensembles are about 50 to 60%. This could be our potentially next named storm. So yes, we'll be having to watch in the Caribbean if this tries to get its act together. And we could be looking at heavier rains across the Caymans into Jamaica, the Dominican Republic. So we'll just have to watch this kind of come together. But yeah, hurricane season's not over, folks. We're still watching it for you. But look at the drought, folks. It is desperate right there in Louisiana and Mississippi. Almost the entire state is covered in exceptional drought. They need rain big time across, especially across these two states. And look what happens, folks, with that cold front, right? As it stalls and as it backs up as a warm front, look what happens. I mean, they say, hell, most droughts end in floods. We could be looking at definitely some heavier rains, maybe even some double digits across isolated portions of this area. So they need it. They definitely need it. It may come with too much, right? But it definitely appears that we'll be making a major dent in the drought across this region into the southeast. And yeah, most of the rain in Texas and Arkansas, and a little bit lighter amounts as you spread northbound into the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. But all the rain coming in with that low pressure in center next week across these areas, across the Four Corners regions. And then look at California, look at much of the Pacific Northwest, most of California, especially along the coastal areas into San Diego, into Palm Springs. Those areas will start getting rain again by the time we head into that 15th, 16th, 17th time frame of next week. So guys, I appreciate you guys following. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update where I protect you before and after the storm.